All right, welcome back to another video, fighters. We've got a bit of something different today. We had a commenter request a bit of a Luard kind of deck profile with some budget options. So we're kind of trying that. I've got Ghillie here with me today to run us through this, but essentially we're doing a bit of a deck tech on Luard. Ghillie, you played this last night at Locals, didn't you?
Yes, I did. I kind of spur of the moment, last minute choice, but I decided I'll play, and then people chose me to play Luard. I already had a list sort of set to play, hadn't really tested it yet, so last night was a pretty decent time to do this. Went 4-0, so one Locals, woohoo.
Nice, nice.
But really just to get straight into it, obviously Stride decks, you have to run the main ride line, so we have the normal grade 0, grade 1, grade 2, and grade 3, can't be changed. Funnily enough, found out off Deer Days too, if you do, you can't have G-zones.
So you can actually run a different ride line, however you just can't have your G-zone if you do so, right?
Yes, so you won't have this if you do that, but obviously we have the crest, along with our pretty standard 4, assuming, because with the recent user set 6, these will eventually get another one for Luard, but till then, it's these 4, always those 2, always expect them. For grade 3, it's a pretty short list, it's literally just 2, and then just the 1 Luard. I am running ladder, regalia pieces though. I always say just pick whatever you feel works for you the best. Personally for me, if I was going to play Luard more to the meta, this would be Twin Cast. It's just such a good card at the moment with what it does. 1 Luard, because we don't necessarily run and play off of this. We usually use our other one to generate as much face-up G-zone for more power. But if we have to, we have access to it. There's options in the deck that you'll see that kind of just gets this back. If it goes to damage, don't fret, like you'll be fine.
Yeah, great.
Alright, so that is the grade 3s. Going on with the grade 2s, we run 4 Biscotti. This card it's Biscotti, it's an energy generator, it's in a crest deck. If you go second, you just draw half your deck, it's insane. It's only in there for its draw skill, obviously you can't Persona ride in a deck that doesn't have it. But the fact that it's Counterblast 1 or Energy Blast 3 for a draw card for either discarding to ride or even just guarding is just insane. In a deck that's already quite tanky. In this version we're running 3 Morfessa. I don't feel the need to run more. You have access to it really easily through your Stride, plus you're pretty likely to find it off of just either drive checking it or, like I said, you just find it off your Stride being able to attack. Now running 3 of this Undercover grade 2, you can run 4. I personally like 3 because I don't necessarily want to have too many of this, because I don't actually use its soul effect too often unless I kind of haven't seen certain things. But this card basically exists to CB1, find a PG, or a missing Shadow Paladin, and that's basically its existence. It pushes like decent numbers on its own, which is really nice. Otherwise, it doesn't really do anything else. And this is the little tech I decided to run last night. It did actually come up, funny enough. This is just on play, Soul Blast 1, discard a card, and add pretty much a Shadow Paladin back to hand. So this can revive your PGs back to hand for what is in the current meta. So things like Levidras, Rezael, and Varga, even Odium. Like this card does quite well against. Funnily enough, this came up against Sienna, which was perfect.
Oh, right.
Which obviously having triple drive and 2 crit means nothing if you're able to recycle it back to hand. Plus obviously Luard's free Stride skill returns them. So, and the other ones, my last little one-offs is my Maple. And this cute little order, which is a recent pickup for me, but this is thanks to Nicholas, actually made me a fan. This is a Blitz order that says, discard 1 when you play it, get 5k to your Vanguard for a fight, and then you add all heals from your drop back to the guard circle for that battle.
Right.
This thing outdoes a Overtrigger.
Damn.
I think this thing pushes your numbers like 78k defensively, which is fucking crazy.
True, yeah.
So in the late game for Luard, once your opponent thinks you've got no more heals, sweet, you just drop this and they're like, oh, okay, I guess I'm not hitting, sweet. So there's a little text for that. So that's all the grade 2s.
Nice.
Going on to grade 1s, we're playing 4 out. This is your counter charger. This is a searching for your, obviously, the main boy. This also helps kind of build up your grade 1s. You need to hit Ritual 3 ASAP kind of to sort of play the game. Once you do, this also helps build up for the big boy. This is a little finisher if you would. But otherwise, yeah, I tend to find, like, want to see this in my opening hand, discard it, find Luard, and the idea is with that, and also I'm just going to say I'm going to play 3 semis because they both function the same. I want this to help me search out a Luard, it's deck thinning 1 card. This is also doing the same thing. So usually on my first stride, I actually kind of aim to grab 2 Semius and hope to just sort of hit normal units. Because in Luard at the moment, all I'm doing is just deck thinning, getting to triggers. I bump my numbers up too high.
Yeah.
And then obviously I'm going to start putting crits back into deck. I'm going to have like just all sorts of whack power by hopefully turn 5 and 6. And this thing being a 10k booster is pretty nice. So like it's just surprising
nice
how much this does. The other one is just 2 of this. It's intercept, but mainly for its 5k shield value. This card is just, once more, you have to be Ritual 3, which is why we kind of rush towards Ritual 3 as soon as possible. But with the meta calling for how aggressive it can be, plus like shield value of any sort that's more than 5k is just really valuable at the moment. Yeah, she's just like an easy call target. If you know your opponent has nowhere to mess with your intercepts, you can call her off of your strides or even off of the on-stride skill.
Yep.
This basically just says like, he's got 10k on board. If your opponent swings into it, it does its job. There's an attack not hitting Vanguard, so it's sweet. So it's nice to sort of have that. Otherwise, I'd probably run it at 1. A card that's still sticking around, 2 Painkiller. This serves the same purpose as it always has in Luard.
Yep.
It's a grade 1 that can Soul Blast to draw your card and retire itself. Ideally, I like to have this for the grade 2 turn, so I can just slam her behind the grade 2.
Yeah, she's one of those ones that's kind of stuck around since Luard really first came out, pretty much.
Yeah, and so like when that happens, I just boost with her. She'll Soul Blast out the other grade 1. She'll draw your card, retire herself, and you've already got 2 grade 1s.
Yeah.
If you've seen Owl in the early game, you already meet Ritual 3 by turn 2. That's like
You're done.
your ideal situation.
Yeah.
And we're running 1 Luminosity Wizard. This thing is just kind of really nice. You usually combo with this boy, slam her behind him. She's an 18k booster. He kind of like messes with your opponent, but she's just like, even after your first stride, she's a 28k if you call her out off of the other one. It's like pretty nice. I don't usually use the Soul Charge effect. I'm not that keen to Soul Charge blindly in Luard, so... And otherwise, I'm running 4 normal. Yep. You can totally run Elementari, by the way, but for the sake of just having this to work as much as with the grade 2 that searches it, or the grade 2 that can revive it back to hand, it's kind of why I just wanted to have 4. And I would...
maximum targets, yeah. Yeah,
so just have many chances as I can to see it, as well as be able to put them back in for the late game.
Great.
And for triggers, pretty standard. Just your 8 crits. It's Luard, it puts it back. You want to just do what crits do. 4 heals, obviously we use heals more than normal because of that order card. This time we're actually running draws. It might seem like draws are dangerous in a deck that either is thinning a lot or is drawing a lot outside of these. I wouldn't be worried. Luard never decks out because of his free on-stride skill. You just choose not to stride, don't attack, it's fine.
Yeah.
But draws we need at the moment because of the way with how fast the game can be. You just need access to cards, and the OT we chose is purple. Again, this is like a case of like, I see this aggressively, I heal, but adding that card to hand, as well as being able to maybe call out another unit, give it 10k, it's 100 million. Again, it's OT, like I say with Regalia Pieces, just pick whatever you want. It's either this or blue OT for me, kind of whatever I'm feeling for, but that's pretty much it. That is pretty much the deck.
Great.
As a whole. Like, it's just a jumble of mess, but it's Luard, it does what it does.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't be... It's probably the only stride deck I've ever really stuck with that I've enjoyed so much because of just what it does. I mean, it
tends to be very flexible.
Oh, 100%. Like, Shiranui, in comparison, was, like, pretty dominant when it came out, but in saying that, it's kind of really seen many tech options, whereas, like, Luard is just able to utilize so much from Keta Sanctuary that it's pretty crazy. Like, it's...
Great.
Yeah.
Well, in terms of that flexibility, obviously, anytime we see a good Keta deck, it starts to become a little bit of a concern of whether we're going to build that because of, Keta pile and how expensive Keta gets. On that note, if anything, what kind of recommendations do you have for sort of like budget options and maybe things that can come in or out?
Yeah, definitely hard to say because, for one, things like Biscotti and Maple, like, of course, the grade 2 does what Maple does, but you have to discard for him, whereas Maple does it for free. She has been reprinted, so you can hopefully maybe pick her up. Painkiller is probably the only non-deck specific generic that probably won't be that expensive. The problem is that Biscotti's a generic that just you can't really beat. Like, even Spiral Cuties are probably up there, which you could play if you want.
Yep.
She kind of at least means that, like, if you do discard her, she does go back to deck, so you're not putting, kind of putting a non-trigger back in deck, which is not ideal.
Yep.
And she has no defensive things. So, like, obviously, Biscotti draws you a card when you discard it for riding, but also can be done for guarding, whereas Spiral can only be done for riding. And obviously, you don't Persona, so you can't get the stacking effect.
Yeah.
I would say if you wanted to, you could definitely just run 4 Semius and 4 Morfessa. If you reach Ritual 3 really early, you'll actually just have a 25k column here, which is already, like, almost unguardable, or it's, like, guaranteed damage, or your opponent's throwing away too much.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, these are expensive. If you do have these, there is a line common that is out in the game where basically when you guard with it, you can put her or another undercover card, which is usually her, back to bottom of deck. He becomes 10k. And then obviously, if he boosts though, you can actually Energy Blast 3 to put him in hand. So you can call him from deck.
So you can kind of just keep recycling it.
Yeah, you can put him back into deck for the free stride, then call him out, Energy Blast 3, he'll bounce back to hand, and then that way it's also a way that you just never deck out.
Yeah.
It's pretty cool. PGs obviously come in the deck, so you'll be right. Unfortunately, yeah, I mean, you could play more copies of this if you like. This guy actually won't be that expensive. Like, I think I paid $4 for the foil. I think the common's literally $1.
Yeah.
Or like the rare or whatever it is. Like, it's not... I mean, he's had a promo reprint. He's from set 11 or 8 or something like that. He's from something like a Minerva set.
Yeah, I think it was when Minerva came out.
This card's pretty cheap.
I think really when it comes to the Stride deck sets, like, they're designed to be good decks straight out of the box. So, like, if you're already looking at building Luard, you're going to need to pick up the Stride deck set anyway. So you can kind of just run it out of box, really, if you're...
Yeah, I mean, if worst comes to worst, just run more of these. Run more... run 4 painkillers. You might have to use Luminosity a few times just to soul charge to make up for the painkiller in this fella, but otherwise I think unfortunately, if you're planning to play Keta, you have to pay Keta tax.
Yeah.
And that is just the unfortunate nature of that. Otherwise, I would recommend it to more people, but because having played it since the very beginning, I've been able to pick up things as it comes out.
Yeah.
And so for someone who's just, like, Tim from Locals, he's literally jumping into it and has just realised how much money you have to dump into even just Luard, and he hasn't even begun to start with things like Rezael.
Yeah.
Like, admittedly, I just picked up 3 Feltroses, and I'm not going to mention how much I paid for those, but admittedly, now that I've got them, I'm happy. But admittedly, when, doing the checkout payment, not so much. But otherwise, unfortunately, there's not really a budget option that does a similar thing for things like Biscotti and all that. So unfortunately, there's not one thing. It's not like you pay a bit extra to do the same thing. It's just nothing. Biscotti just does what it does, and there's nothing else that does it. So.
Look, at the very least, Luard's just one of those, like we mentioned earlier, it's a flexible deck. Have a play around with it, see what works. I remember when this deck first came out, there was this random little, like, common or rare from an old set that used to be used for Shadow Paladin that I used. And it was super situational, but it was literally just if it's literally alone in its column. On your side
18k,
yep. Just a funny little 18k hitter without even talking about stride.
Gave it a little more early game, which actually could still be, like, relevant now. Like, you can just slam it down. It's 18k. It's kind of rough to deal with. Like, one trigger turns it to 28.
Exactly.
Like,
and enough decks these days just kind of clear out their own boards that it's probably even now still a valid target to just call off of your Luards on stride and everything.
Yeah, I mean, we've got Levy Draft that doesn't really call anything early. If it does, it's using a few resources, but otherwise, like, Rezile's more likely to get rid of its own stuff. Varga either will call stuff to be aggressive early, but then you can just, like if Levy Draft calls stuff early, just punch the rear guards.
Yeah.
Don't give them CB. And obviously it's Luard, so the longer this game goes,
the scarier it gets.
Yeah, because for every one of these face-up bad boys, there's 5k to your front row. I think it's something like... Well, it's like 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30, 35, 40k pump.
Yeah.
Which means your Vanguard late game is 53. And like I said, it's Luard. You can just chuck 2 normal units to bottom of deck, choose not to stride.
Keep yourself going.
And you'll just never deck out. The deck's insane.
Yeah.
It's very, very fun. Luard will be... If Keta just keeps getting random support like this, Luard will live forever.
Exactly.
So...
Great. All right. Well, did you want to kind of have a very quick talk about, like, kind of ideal scenarios, what you're looking for in maybe mulligans and kind of just your go-to lines of play, maybe.
Okay, yeah. All right, for opening hands, let's say if you're going first, this doesn't matter. Like, if you're going first, you are most likely just going to get your free stride anyway.
Yeah.
If you're versing another stride deck, you could grade 2 game. In saying that, if that was the case for grade 2 gaming, I would probably, like, obviously you want to see Maple early game, but Morfessa and Semius, let me just grab those. These are pretty nasty. Like, the longer the grade 2 game goes, you're more likely to see, like, your grade 1s in drop. And if that's the case, they become live. Even this girl's a bit of a pain in the ass, because she is, like, 10k shield value, which is, 10k shield value is pretty valuable early game in grade 2 gaming.
Yeah.
So these are, like, your kind of nice little targets for grade 2 gaming. Otherwise, if this is a normal game, you're going second. This is, like, pretty much your ideal hand. You're seeing Maple to do Maple things in Luard for striding. It's just, she calls herself out. You're getting a free call.
Yeah.
Maple, because obviously, like I said before, like, you, by turn 2, you'll have 3 ritual because you'll drop this to search for Luard. This card helps if, depending what you're versing, you can hopefully find PGs. This card's really nice too. If you're going second, you'll probably be grade 3, so you can even just play this on turn 3.
Yep.
Stride. Search for PG. If you hit, sick. If you don't, just take a Shadow Paladin out of deck thin. And then if you've got any soul left, it's an extra 10k by soul blasting, which is really nice. And then this card I like to use for discarding to stride because you draw 1, and it's in there for next turn to start striding for free.
Great.
So yeah, that's the most ideal hand I can imagine.
Yeah.
What I've felt the best doing so far, but
yeah. Now, for anyone that's kind of maybe new with Luard, can you, obviously, these ones I should feel kind of straightforward, but can you walk us through a little bit, like, what Maple does, why she's good in the deck?
Right, okay. So, say we strode, she's in drop, we stride in. So when you stride, Maple will call herself out because a grade 3 or greater has been placed during the ride phase, which both ride phase and stride phase happen kind of simultaneously. Obviously, it's ride phase first and then stride phase, but they're all kind of considered to be in the same thing.
Sure.
But you basically call her out, and then you'll use Luard's on stride skill just to straight up kill her.
Yeah.
And search your deck for 2 cards, which usually has Semius. Fun thing, if you have 2, I'll say this is a Maple for the idea of it. If you have 2 Maples and you stride, both actually activate, but as soon as you call one, the other one will kind of fall off, but will still be in limbo. So you can actually kill off this Maple, find your 2 grade 1s from deck, and the other one will reactivate, essentially come out of limbo, and you can play it.
So you still get the body, essentially.
Yeah, but you can't do the same Maple you killed.
Yeah, right.
Because she'll have come out, and then the timing of that will pass. So
Yeah.
it's pretty cool. Like, it's cool little things like that, but obviously I only run the 1. I'm not doing cool little tricks like that, but
Yeah.
just cool stuff like that. Yeah, and the idea of why, obviously, again, we play Semius is, the idea of Luard for me at the moment is just deck thin, C triggers,
Yeah.
bash. You're going to put crits back to the bottom, so you're always going to have access to a crit,
Yeah.
and then you're pretty much just playing the long game. So
Yeah, great. All right. Well, I think that just about does it for our deck profile here. Thank you very much for walking us through that, Ghillie.
all good, all good.
Look, hope you guys all enjoyed that. Hope that was informative. Please let us know what you think below. And yeah, if you do want to see any more deck profiles, look, I don't want to kind of just throw out deck profiles on the channel just, you know, while we have access to them. But if there's specific things that you guys want to see, and we have like a player that is used to the deck and similar to today can walk us through like the decisions that are made during playing that deck and everything like that, then we'll see what we can do. But other than that, we'll see you on the next one. Please do like and subscribe if you want to see more, and thank you all for watching.